Hey there. Thanks for pressing play on Perspectives YYC. My name is David Yan, and I created this podcast to highlight Calgary's art and culture scene. This episode, I get to sit down with up-and-coming street artist Harvey Nichol. Harvey's work is starting to pop up all around the city. His latest mixed medium are built on skateboards and found items like broken frames. They're incredible. We'll get into how we met, but more interestingly, his full and sort of tragic life. A life, while only less than half my time around here, I believe, really informs the layers you see in his work, his personality, and his general aura. If you're around September 20th, we're having a launch event at Phil and Sebastian's Mission Cafe for his first solo show, brought to you by Perspectives YYC. It starts at 7 p.m. and we'll have debut performances from a new DJ, some guitarists, and Harvey himself will be there with secret pieces to debut at the show. It'll be wild. Hope to see you there.
I just want minimal. We don't have to get physical. I just want the minimal. No, we don't have to get physical. I just want the.
All right, well, I don't know how to start these ever.
Yeah, I mean, usually just talk.
As awkwardly as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm in your place. I'm sitting down with Harvey Nichol.
Hello.
I'm going to try to rush this out for our show on the 20th. So if this gets out, then there's a show coming out.
There is a show coming out.
September 20th, Friday night.
Next week, Friday. It's going to be a special day. It's going to be my first solo exhibition, which is like, I'm fucking so stoked. Can I swear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fucking fuck.
Yeah, we're good. Explicit content's always checked off.
Yeah.
So we're all right.
Yeah. So I'm so excited.
No, I'm excited too, man. I usually start these when we talk about where we met, so we'll start there. But just on that point, it's gonna be cool. And I think because you've got all these cool people to build a live show, I think it's gonna be an amazing night.
Yeah, and the crazy part about it is like all the musicians are like, most of them, this is their first time performing or like a second time performing.
Oh damn.
And they're all so good. So like, I'm like, I want to have it as like, so like, you know, like debuting. It's not just me debuting in the show. It's like there's also these like crazy musicians that will be debuting.
Yeah. So, Harvey, how do we meet?
Yeah, I think we met like what, a year, 2 years ago. Magari, with the Magari kids. I remember. I think it was also at Phil and Sebastian, because I know Dallas was working at the time there when the whole thing was going on. So I think that's how I met you. Or the oyster place. What's that? Rodney's.
At Rodney's?
Yeah, because you had also like shows there around the time.
Yeah. I think we did. It was definitely through Magari. The lady in Dallas was working at Phil and Sebi at the time, but
goes back around, you know.
Yeah. Well, this whole renaissance of my life starts at that coffee shop.
Yeah.
Just like talking to people. So I definitely owe a lot of gratitude to all the people that I met. That generation of baristas, and then on and on. But I think it might have been the Crescent Heights photo shoot.
Oh yes. Oh, that is the first time we met.
I think.
No, I think that was the first time, because I was late, I think, around. I'm always late. That's nothing new. I'm running on Filipino time, you know. but yeah, no. I think that's when we met. We first met. We were with. I know most of those kids' Instagram name, just Instagram name. I don't know their real name.
Yeah, I don't remember who. I think. I mean, Dallas, Vlad. I think Morgan.
Yeah.
Her friend.
We were like walking around being hoodlums at Chinatown.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
That was really fun.
Yeah. And they were telling me they knew this hype dude who was going to show up, and I thought you were going to bail. And then you popped in, and it was cool. And the pictures turned out neat.
Yeah, they did. They were at that Rotary Park.
Yeah.
That was a good shoot. That was a good shoot.
We did some weird stuff. Yeah, was that a year ago? Maybe longer.
Yeah, and then from that point onward, we just started like seeing each other all the time, obviously, because the scene here is not that big, so like you will see the same people over and over again. So like when you see the same people over and over again, there's got to be something that they're doing because they're there.
Yeah, that intersection. I mean, you think that it would actually happen more often and more kind of vigorously, but you're right. It's like you end up somewhere and you're like, oh shit, Harvey, what's going on?
Exactly.
Yeah, so from that time, from the Magari days, it sounds like such a long time ago.
It's like 2 years ago. But no, I feel like that kind of like, I don't know, like a generation kind of like started it, like to have a little bit of noise around like obviously before that there was like a lot of things going on, but like I think that like the Magari part was like the era where like I started seeing how many kids are into it rather than just seeing it on Instagram or like on social media. Like you see them in the streets like going to these events, which is like that was a good motivation to like start doing stuff because you see all these kids that are like hyped to see all this stuff, and my art was garbage around that time. So
well, that's the thing. I mean, I don't know if it was garbage, but at the time they were talking more about streetwear and fashion and all this kind of biz.
There wasn't really a lot of like, there was art, but art is more of a side thing. Like there's like spaces in the wall, so why not have an artist put in there? So, but it wasn't really like the main focus, which is like I feel like that's starting to like change, and like every aspect before music, like like when they call artists, they're not really like there to like showcase. They're just like there's the main act that is the musician, but like the artist is just there just to like support it kind of. I feel like art here is very hard to be like the main attraction, which is like it's starting to change, starting to have like art as like a main attraction.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, all of my recent conversation, I'm trying to push people to this question, but yeah, we're starting there. I mean, even over the last year and a half, what are you seeing in the Calgary art scene? So, you've given me kind of a topical thing that art's starting to push out and try to be noticed. But, what was it like when you were starting out? Although it's different when you're starting out because you may not be pushing so hard to get your stuff in. You're just, watching the scene. How do you feel like it is now as somebody? I mean, never mind us working together for this show, but I remember, I think, Asim Overstens posted a Instagram story that he shot something with you or something. I saw like other people getting involved with you a few months ago too. So you're getting connected to a couple of big players here and like people that are pushing really hard in that both commercial space and the street level stuff. So like, what's your feeling about Calgary in general?
I think it's starting to have. I wouldn't say it's starting to, because like for me, I try to just like look into myself rather than like trying to see what other people are doing. So like I kind of, to me, like for me, I think like my art is progressing personally, but like I don't know about other artists because like I haven't been going out as much, but I see that there's more interest in it, and I feel like in street art here, especially like the murals that are coming up everywhere are insane. Like I just saw that Contemporary Calgary just had like a $30 million budget that was given to them by the government, which is like that's a big deal. Like that's a lot of money for like a public contemporary gallery in the city. So I think it's starting to have like more and more, I don't know, public appeal, especially with the it's not just like a gallery thing now, like public art is everywhere now, which is like before that there was no murals around. Like you will see like murals in like few places, but it's like very like it's cool. That's why like when you go on you go on Instagram, all these kids that does photography, they usually go to these like places where like they have murals and stuff. But now it's not just like a hidden thing now. Like it's in front of you, and like it's there unadulterated, like for you to like take in. So I think it's becoming really well known. I don't know. I don't think it's in that point of like being well known yet, because like I don't know, just
no, I think what's interesting is and maybe you could speak about this kind of as a segue, is the stereotype of street art, whether it's murals, graffiti, whether it's the use of particular mediums or a demographic that you're trying to sell to, whatever it is. When you speak, it sounds like you're trying to keep tabs on a lot of different levels of art that you're studying. I'm sitting in your apartment and you've got books about culture and art and stuff like that. I mean, it's got its own direction to your interests, but I wanted to talk about where you came from and how it influences you. But it's interesting. It's why I think your opinion and your intuition about where Calgary's art scene is probably more spot on than you think. There's something interesting, because I've been noticing too that we're driving down the street and I'm noticing not just the big commercial murals that pop up, but now some of the sites of buildings have contracted private people do some cool stuff. Whether I like it or not is irrelevant, but the city's becoming a little bit more colorful. It's getting a little bit more edgy. Like in your peer group, I mean, I don't know. I mean, who you hang out with, like what creators you're working with, but Secret Shop and Vintage are doing really well, doing what they're doing.
They're doing crazy. And that whole movement has just started as well. And like the way that you go to these events now and you see how many people go in there, it's insane. And like that's why, like, when people say that Calgary, there's nothing to do here, or like there's no art, or there's no like culture here, it's like not really. You're just like not looking, or like you're just like, I don't know, you're just not in tune with like the culture here, you know what I mean? Which is like, there isn't that, just because you don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, and I think that's what Calgary scene is right now. It's just like, if you're in it, like it's live and well and thriving. But if you're not in it, then you'll be like, where the fuck is everybody, like where the fuck is the culture here? So like, I think it's starting to become more mainstream, but not really though, because it's just like, fuck, there's only like so many people in the city anyways. Like, in my opinion, I feel like the city's art scene will like go rapidly insane if there's like a big population boom in the city. You know what I mean? Like, because like, we are a small city in comparison to all these other big cities that people are trying to compare us to. We are a very small city, so it's just like, you can't really expect that. Like, there's only like what, 10,000 people downtown, and like what, like 2 million, is it?
1.2, I think.
Yeah, like 1.2 million in the whole city, and like most of them don't live in the center of the city, which is like, that says a lot. Unless like, other parts of the city starts doing their own thing, like not just downtown. I feel like downtown will be like the spot where it will all be happening. I don't know why.
Yeah, I remember when I first moved here, the sort of old school Calgarians told my wife and I to never go downtown. It was dead. And like even now, it does have this thing in the core, at least in the business areas. Like on a Saturday night, it's fucking
nothing.
Dead. There's nothing.
It is. There is no.
So it's a little creepy. I mean, there's some entertainment establishments that still exist, underground clubs, etc. But
10th Ave is crazy. Like living here, seeing it, like you can just. I don't even need to go outside because I can just look at my window and like, oh shit, it's turned up, and then like go to sleep.
Well, that's the thing I wanted to ask you. I mean, I'm getting distracted from the biography we typed up, but. What do we got to do then? Go. I mean, outside. I mean, I also. I mean, I don't come from a big city, but Toronto's the biggest in Canada, and so it's an easy almost cop out to be like, well, this is like not even a quarter of the population, so how can we expect the same level of this, that, and the other thing? But recently with my son and just generally being out, I've been in at a few events like Comic-Con or Stampede. I suddenly realized I'm standing maybe in a crowd of 10, maybe 20,000 people, and it's a lot of fucking people, right? Like I've been getting depressed about not connecting with enough people doing the work I'm doing, and then I realized, holy shit, like there's actually a lot of people. But how do we get them to look, let's say, at your work? Never mind whether they like it or not, but what are we missing, do you think? Maybe not missing, but what's that next step that's going to come out, that connects people, like you said, in the burbs,
that's in my opinion, like bringing, I think like those communities that are like in the burbs, the way that we'll be able to like, you know, get them integrated with like the current arts and culture here is like through them doing their own thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you can't just like, some people expect like, you know, if I'm not doing it, I expect someone else doing it, but like that's not how it works. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you want to have a culture, then you have to do something about it. Like, so, you know, I feel like a lot of these people just expect the culture to just happen randomly. Like, that's why, like, you know, it's good to like fund all these like art non-profit organization, and like, you know, push all these like inner artists around that, you know. I don't know if that makes any sense, but you know, that's.
No, I like that. I've been recently talking a lot about something similar, which is, you know, widely the pessimistic decline of humanity, but this idea that modern humans expect to be able to point and click everything. They don't do the work to get to all, you know, to whatever it is. But when you bring up like the suburbs, the typical thought process for me is like, how do I pull them in? You know, how do I grab the attention of, you know, somebody working this type of job, living in this type of house, with completely different ideologies and beliefs, even if they probably are still an art lover, but we can't communicate right now in the same language. But I think your insight's a better approach, which is, for example, if we had like a citywide comp where like every borough would have to send somebody to rep their hood. That would be fascinating, because there would be a lot of weird, a lot of weird interactions.
And like you will see their voices, you know, like for us, this is our perspective of how it is, but you don't know their perspective. You don't know where they think it is. So like they'd be able to like tell you how they feel. So it's like, you know, that's just the only way to like get that going.
But this idea of instead of trying to draw people in, but challenge them to give me something that they like. I think there's a huge,
and that's what's in every major city. That's how it goes, you know. Every neighborhood, every borough or whatever will like try to rep themselves, and like, you know, like, and that's how it goes. Like in every major city, like, you know, everybody's repping their own, like wherever they came from. So it's like, how is Calgary different if you're trying to be there? You know what I mean? Like, you can't just expect a one spot to like thrive. You know what I mean? Like, it has to be every single part of the city thriving. Then you're gonna be like, shit, now this is happening. So I think one day it will happen, because, you know, like I saw that there's that mural, not mural, but there's that thing that they're accepting application in 17th Ave Southeast for like all these mural, which is great, you know.
Avenue,
exactly. Which is great, you know, like starting to like not just downtown, but, you know, and Crescent Heights. Like last month, I was lucky to be part of a group show at Village Hub at Crescent Heights Community Association, and like that was a great thing, because like Crescent Heights is one of the oldest neighborhood in the city. So like starting like having that place, unfortunately, like I think they only have like a certain amount of time where they can have that, you know, time, but it was great to see that, you know, other neighborhoods are starting to like, you know, nurture their own mini scenes, you know what I mean? Which is great. I think that's where it's gonna go, and I hope it goes that way, in an optimistic way.
Yeah, you know, having met Alice, who's pushing a lot of that Crescent Heights thing, there are people that vibe at this energy low, that wanna, whether it's press specific locals in the neighborhood or just in general, get people to interact more. So it's got to mean something.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
All right, well, let's rewind a little bit, because I want to talk about how we get to your art. And I'll ask the question openly, and you know, we can kind of poke at it as you see fit. But when you sent me your artist bio, I was, you know, it's kind of surprising. Because I don't know anything about you, other than I saw a video of you shirtless riding a horse in the Philippines. But
that was hilarious. That was funny.
But yeah, I mean, talk to me about. I don't know.
No, for me, like, I was just talking to a buddy of mine. Shout out to Ty Graham, Lifted Thought. But we were just talking about it, how like when like I started doing art, and like now that like I like know a lot of people around here. It's like I would think that they know, like I don't know, just my personal perception, like people know me, but like I guess like they don't really know me and like, until like I tell them who I am, and from like most of a lot of people do not know like where I'm from, or like you know what I mean. Of like one time I heard a rumor that somebody thought that I was from the U.S. and I'm just like, what? Never been to the U.S. So I'm like, who said that? So it was really interesting. But yeah, I was born in Manila in the Philippines. I was born in Tondo district. If you know, you know. Like if you know where Tondo is, you know what's up, because it's the poorest district in Manila, and Manila is comprised with well, Metro Manila is 16 cities combined, so that's called Metro Manila. But Manila itself is just like a small city. It's like the first city there, and in that first city there's that district, and that's where I was from. That's where I was born and raised by a single mom. A lot of stuff happened while I was there, and then I migrated to Canada when I was around 14. So not that long ago, actually. It's only like what, 2019. I didn't move here. I just moved here not that long ago. But yeah, and then after I moved here, I had a lot of issues with my extended family here, or like my father's side and stuff. So we weren't able to like have a good relationship, and it ended up in like me running away and like just living in the streets for like half a year. I was living in shelters. I was living in Exit Youth Shelter at the time, on 16th Ave and 2nd Street, and that's kind of how I started getting into arts. Is like when I was disenfranchised. Is like when I was able to like try to touch all these like mediums, because before I started doing visual art, I was doing a lot of other stuff. I was dancing. I was trying to learn break dancing. I was trying to DJ. I was just trying to like touch all the water, see which one I liked the best. And when I was living at the shelter, there was this one program that was there was this lady who came up to me and invited me to a program that was happening in Kensington. And I'm like, every Sunday in the shelter, they kick you out just because they don't have a budget. So so like they kick you out before I think 10 or 11 in the morning, and then the whole day you have free time. They'll give you like a sandwich, so like you can like survive in the streets, but then they don't have budget to like keep staff in there for the whole day, so you have to come back there later on in the night. So like when I had that like free time, I would go to these program, and this one lady that was gave me the pamphlet for this event, told me to come to this event, and it's called Refresh, and there was this hip hop program that was teaching all like the main elements of hip hop. And for me, like, holy fuck, that's my shit. I started like going there, and then I met the director of Refresh, Nathan Lennett, and like he kind of introduced me to the whole scene of like, because like they in that program they bring artists, like established artists in the city to teach children, and like that's how I kind of started meeting all these amazing artists. So like I started like touching all the waters in arts, and that's how I kind of started to gravitate towards one kind of element towards another. And then I don't know, I didn't really draw at all. Like I stopped drawing at all. Like I was like drawing when I was a kid. That was like my shit. I used to play by drawing, like like those tanks and stuff. So that's kind of how I entertain myself. But then like I started learning about street art, graffiti, and all that, and started like liking it. And then I stopped for a minute because I wasn't able to like get the hang of it, I guess. So I started doing other stuff. And yeah, where am I now? Just like
Kensington.
Rambling. Yeah.
Sunday art program.
Yes, Sunday art program. So I would go to the Sunday art program, and I would just go there, meet all these new people, and like get like feed off their energy. That's what I was doing, I guess, when I was that young. And yeah, you know, I moved to moved to the foster system after being in the streets. My dad lost rights over me as a kid, so they sent me to the foster system. And after that, I started like, you know, moving foster system, like foster house to foster home. And then when I got out of foster system, I was able to work. I was able to move out. And this was the first place that I decided to live, is downtown. I'm just like, you know what? There's no other place that I would live if I have like, you know, money to pay for my own rent. So I moved downtown, and then, you know, and then I started reconnecting with all these art mentors that I had over the years. And then, you know, as time passes by, I started to like meet a lot of people around here that are doing different, like, you know, mediums of art, like poetry, visual art, photography, and all that. And then, yeah, about like 2-3 years ago, when I started to like get back into visual art, and it started by just like, you know, seeing a book, actually, a book by Basquiat, and it was just you know, his art and his, like, you know, his whole bio and stuff, and that kind of got me motivated. And I saw that, you know, art doesn't have to be like, you know, a technical skill. Like, you know, you don't have to go to school to like learn all these like technical skill of how to make a realistic whatever, you know what I mean? I realized that art could be used as an expression, and like it has no rules, you know? And that's how I started to like stop giving myself all these rules and started to like do it more. Because like when I started painting, like I would just like look in the paper and like trying to like imagine what I wanted to do instead of just doing it. I just like overthink it. So I never done anything, like, you know what I mean? Like I won't finish something because it's like, oh, maybe I should do that. But no, I'll erase that idea before I even put that in the paper, you know what I mean? So when I saw the way he works, like he doesn't give a fuck, like he'll go at it. And I started to like learn that way, you know what I mean? This is like, just go at it. If you don't like it, erase it, add something to it, and you know. And then I started to like watch a lot of these documentaries and like try to like study art history by myself, because I'm not gonna go to school, get me like a student loan just to learn all these people. Like there's the internet, so like, you know, I started trying to learn how they did it, and like, you know, started following. I think that's how I started to like get more and more involved, is just like knowing all the movements in art. Like, you know, I saw this book at the library one time that is just like list all of the movements, like expressionism, Dadaism, you know, like French expressionism, neo-expressionism, pop art, and all that. And all of that got me, and all of those movement has like something to offer. So I was able to like, you know, take what I liked in each one of the movement and then put them into my own work, you know. Yeah, that was a long spiel.
No, you're right. It's great. No, I'm just pausing as I digest everything you threw at me.
Yeah.
Well, let me go back to my notes. I mean, my first thought was, I mean, you're old enough maybe to do this. I mean, coming to Canada in your teens, you know, for people that don't know, the Philippines is a very high density population, particularly Metro Manila is like what, 25 million people or something, something crazy.
Manila has like 20 million or something.
It's nuts.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? People shouldn't live that close to each other because they're gonna kill each other.
Yeah.
Hence the crime rate there.
Well, that's
you know?
the thing. And the other thing a lot of people don't know is the Philippines is not a very stable country.
It's not, you know.
They're in the midst of a silent-ish civil war. They've got all this fucking corruption and violence, and then the natural thing that happens when you have 25 million people in one area, people are
will
crazy,
kill each other.
Yeah.
You don't have food, you don't have fucking employment, so it's like What am I gonna do? So it's just like, it is a hard place to like grow up, but like, you know, that was home, you know what I mean? Like, that didn't seem very different. Like, moving here was fucking insane.
Well, that's
Like,
that's what I
like-
want to get at. It's like, you know, is it possible for you to kind of shine a light and compare the two experiences?
Oh,
I mean,
fuck.
your experience in Calgary is actually quite dramatic too, but you know, yeah, how informing is it that you're growing up in this tension, and then what's your life like?
I never really saw it as a tension, you know? Like, you know, you grow up there, so like you think that this is how normal is, you know? Like, fucking fights all the time, people getting killed all the time, just like, you know, people dying all the time. And that's one thing about my neighborhood, is just like, there's this thing in my neighborhood where like one person die, and then there's this like a chain of like people dying. And so like you just see like funerals and like wakes, because the way we do wakes in the Philippines is we'll have it in like a public setting, so like everybody can go in there. And living in Tondo, you don't really have space, so you can't really put it in your house, because like you can't really put your like loved ones in your house. You have to put it outside in like the court, like a basketball court, put like tents in it, and like, you know. So like we have this thing where like one person will die, you'll have that tent, that will go, and the next thing you know, and then it was just like a train of like thing, you know. And it becomes normal. That's normal there. So it's like, coming here, it's just like, it was a culture shock for me, you know. It was just like, fuck, the clean are so, like, the streets are so clean, it's insane. And like, you know, people are not like, you know, at each other all the time, and people are very nice here. Well, not all people, but you know, but it's a very insane like change, especially in that age where like I'm just, you know. But I was able to like see that side of Calgary here, you know. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. When like I was homeless, I was able to see the grimy side of Calgary, which felt home to me. Like, I think that's how I survived with all that years, is just like, because knowing that there is another place worse than where I'm at was the only way. I'm like, shit, this is not that bad. Fuck, these people giving me sandwiches and shit, you know. So it's like, it's not that bad. So like, I don't know, it's kind of like you get something from it, you know. Like, if I swear to God, I would have not been the same if I like grew up here from like childhood to like, you know, teen. Would have been totally different. I would have been like fucking spoon fed and everything. Probably not, but you know.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's worth getting into the, you know, family details of gossip, but I'm just looking at the pieces around us, and I'm thinking about, you know, let's overanalyze and pretend that I'm intelligent, but this juxtaposition between like the bright primary childish colors, but a lot of your images are so dark and deal with that sort of tension. But then you bring up this point that you lived in, I think, what many Canadians would consider a hell. But that's where you're from. Mm-hmm. And so even when you go to what's considered one of the worst things in Canada is considered going homeless. It's like one of the greatest fears.
Oh, hell yeah. Being homeless here has like, you know, so much perks.
No, it's interesting because like, I mean, I'm starting to like look at your pieces a little bit different now, and how, you know, there's the awareness of what it is, but then this almost gratitude, or I don't know.
Yeah, and that's and I'm glad that you're seeing that, because that's something that like not a lot of people get right away. You know what I mean? Until like they know me, or like, you know, they read about the description and stuff. And I usually don't even put description in my shit, you know. So like it depends on you how you take it. But like that's how I try to put it. It's just like, it's kind of like a yeah, as you said, a juxtaposition over like, you know, having all these like colorful things, but then looking at it, it's just like there's violence in it. There's a lot of subliminal messages that I hid in it, which is awesome. I like that my style can do that, because, you know, doing realism, you won't be able to hide shit because it just looks real, you know. It's just like, but I think that's how I just, you know, I don't know.
That's great. No, it's great. I mean, it also kind of brings me to the second point. I mean, working through, the comparison of the hip hop culture and the culture of New York in the late 70s, it's not comparable to what Calgary is on the surface. But how you experience Calgary, and then kind of going back to the earlier part of the conversation about, you know, boroughs and hoods and people need to rep their thing to like get culture out. And I wonder if that's one of the blocks in Calgary, is that, you know, as dark as these bus times can be, it hasn't been so much that it's influenced people to be like, you know, yo, Tuscany, fuck, you know, we do shit here out in the Northwest,
Tuscany,
right?
shout out to Tuscany.
Right? I mean, not to hate on one, but that's just the first name that came to mind.
No, I used to live in Tuscany, so it's like, shit.
But that's the thing, it's fascinating, you know, when I see the old documentary videos of New York back in the day, there's like no good spot in Manhattan. Like they were all suffering. And so when they repped their hoods, it was just, it was a little comparative, but like who's got it worse, because they're all headed shit. And the New York that we see now, I mean, that's
totally different.
60 years of people building new shit on top of it. Canada's in a different reflection led a bit of a charm. Like, I mean, as visible minorities, we also still see different tensions here, but it's nothing like
you know, other places. And like when you were talking about New York and like, you know, the 70s and 80s, and like that whole era is what motivates me to fucking do all the things that I do. It's just like that whole era has like, you know, like marked themselves so heavily as like this, like one of the greatest artists, like art scene in history. And like that's what I'm hoping Calgary will have, you know what I mean? And like that's what I'm striving for in my own art, is like to be able to just not rep my own shit, but also like repping the whole scene, you know? I'm not like the greatest artist, like there's so many fucking great artists in the city that are way more better than me, but I think in my art it has more of a ideology in it, you know what I mean? And I hope that's a good thing.
You know, the other thing, I mean, being the optimist that he turned out to be, there's an interesting, I was going to kind of get to this point too, but that we're seeing this growth in the art and culture scene as Calgary's in this apparent recession. I mean, so as people...
And that's how it goes, man. When like shit, when you don't have money, it's like, what the fuck are you going to do? Like, you know, instead of going out, you go in, you know what I mean? You go towards your inner self and trying to learn what the fuck you can do. Because like, that's one thing that, you know, I believe that Calgary is going through a crazy change, and like we might not see it, but like I see it, like I fucking see it, that like slowly, like Calgary was, you know, as everybody know from Calgary is an oil city, and like, you know, and that whole boom started happening like a couple of years ago. And like when that declined and started being stagnant, every other city that will go through a growth like that and like stops, they will have to like look for other industries to like, you know, like to rep, you know what I mean? Because like if you can't rely on this one industry, you have to like, you know, find another industry that you're good at, which is like, I think Calgary's starting to like look for that, like, you know, what else can we do in this city? And this city has a lot to offer, a lot of people with crazy talent. So it's just like, as you said, very optimistic of me, but you know, I think it will happen.
Just, and the final comment, I just said this before, well, not just, but I think it's fascinating that you are an actor. Like, you know, you get interested in art and then you go out. I mean, it's not like you only spend all your time in the library or whatever, but you're interested in it. And then, you know, I
fucking love art history. Like,
yeah,
I'm
it's
a
fascinating.
nerd.
Yeah.
A lot of people in ACAD or whatever, that's one thing that they hate is art history. And I'm just like, shit, you go in my YouTube history, it's just art history on fucking, you can watch all day. So it's just like, yeah, I think it's just like seeing what the past has done, you can look forward better, you know what I mean? Because like you see how it goes, you know, the way any other industry is. You look at you know what happened before that, and like, you know, in Wall Street, they look at like how it goes up and down. The way with art, you know what I mean? It's like, and usually recession brings out fucking the artistic side of the city. And yeah.
I'll ask you a weird question just because I spent a lot of time with my friend Bob. Great, cool dude, painter.
Shout out to Bob.
Yeah, Bob Pierce. But he's brought up this in his mind how, the pop art and the migration of sort of these European cultures into New York and then getting commercialized kind of destroyed art as it was. But as we sit here now, and we've had this conversation about the art pieces at the cafe, pricing, commercialization, popularity, Instagram. I mean, how do you find attention for yourself in painting the stuff? Are you finding that it's appearing in some of the images? And I'm staring at Donald Duck there with dollar signs in his pupils. But, like this idea of art for art's sake, art as expression, or art as a commodity. I mean, how are you? You're just starting your career, but I mean, are you feeling, especially in a city like Calgary, where I get this sense that everything has to be tied to a dollar amount, and most people want that dollar amount to be zero. But what's your feeling? Is there tension there? Is that like?
I would say there is and there isn't. It's I don't know why art and money has like such a. I do know why, because it's like the fucking art galleries and all this art auction and shit. But like, let's talk about just like normal people art, like you and I, like just us as artists. It's like I don't think there's such a bad thing as just paying for art. You know what I mean? Like there is like you won't. It's a service, and like in its way, it's kind of like you pay for. You pay for anything that you take, like, what I mean? Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but like you grab a plant, you pay for that plant, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of the same. Shoes, for example. How is shoes different from like art in a sense that like people will buy expensive ass shoes just because, it's a commodity, but like we'll not pay an artist for like what it's worth, you know what I mean? I don't know if that's what you were asking.
A little bit. I mean, never mind sort of the talk about what they'll pay, but even the psychology as an artist and how it affects like what you even decide to start working on. Do you get a feeling like you'll start a piece and then that one of the narratives will pop in your head like nobody's gonna like this instead of
instantaneously, especially like you look at this piece right here, like fuck, my friend, my old roommate did that piece, and like and then I started working on top of it, and I'm just like, shit, this shit is horrible. And then suddenly, like, that's how I think social media helps so much. It's just like, and then I like will like I'll put it on my story, and then suddenly someone will like, is that piece for sale? And like that shit to me is just like very motivating in a sense that shit, I could actually live off my art and like pay food with art, you know what I mean? Like I can like do all that with art, so it's just like I don't know.
That's interesting. That's good. That's great. I mean, I don't have any.
What do you think about it?
I don't know. I think that my my personal experience, and it makes me reflect actually listening to you about the work that I create. If it's simply that I'm not finding that audience, I've had great people that have bought into what I'm doing, but I also have this worry that it's not a sustainable thing.
If as a creative person, that will always come into play. If you're not like working for another company or such, being a freelance artist, it will always come to like, oh my god, maybe one day nobody will like my shit, and then nobody will buy it, and then like fuck, why did I do this whole thing? But then that's just like, I don't know. That's just like, I feel like it's a fear that you get in every industry. Like like you go through any other industry that you want to go to, and like you'll think that your skill is not as valuable as it is, or whatever. But then like, I don't know, the market's gonna regulate itself. That's so funny. That was a joke, but but. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if you believe in yourself, and that's one thing that a lot of people I think will think. I don't know if I'm trying to get this right. Other people likes other people that are like more. That likes themselves. I don't know if that makes sense. That does not make any sense. I'm trying to go towards a different route, but
That's all right. I mean, like, are you thinking about from a marketing perspective and this idea of confidence, or?
Yeah. No, I'm not. I would say confidence, but like, if you're being yourself and like just like if that's how you think, if you're being yourself, and people see that you're being yourself and not pretending to be like other people, I think that, and you make dope shit. It is just like, you know what I mean, and like you kind of have your own style of how you're going towards your art. I feel like they will fuck with it and they will buy it. I don't know. I'm lucky right now that like some people are like liking my style, but because like, you know, I tried to like study like what in the past year people have liked and like put that work into my own style, you know what I mean? I don't know. It's a lot of questions, man.
Yeah.
This is the FBI.
No, we're cool. Well, so one of the things I've been thinking a lot about in this vein, whether my podcasts are too long, but I mean, I guess the final sort of big point before we get into just the final wrap up, I mean, if you want to talk about it, and we don't have to, we cut it out, but yeah, I mean, the 11 years ago and, you know, the importance of...
11 years ago is on September 20th, 11 years ago will be the 11th death anniversary of my mom. So it's a very special day for me. I actually got it tattooed right here. But 11 years ago, the title itself doesn't really like, you know, relate towards the art itself, but me as an artist. And I think it's a day and I want to commemorate that whole event to my mom, you know, because like if she didn't, you know, encourage me to do art when I was a kid, I would have like never, you know, started doing art at all. So that's what the 11 years ago is about. So I hope, you know, it's a more personal title that a lot of people won't probably guess unless they see this or listen to this. But yeah, or you go to the event and I'll explain it to you.
All right, man. Yeah. That's really it. I mean, what's next for you? We got the show we're working on together. I think you told me you got something else popping up. I don't know if is it gonna something in late September?
Well, I'm trying to work on something for October. But you know, we'll see. Most of those are, you know, I'm always on the work, so you know, holla at me if you need anything.
No plugs.
Of course.
Okay, yeah, we'll shout out all the stuff on social, but yeah, how do people find you?
You can find me on Instagram. Harvey is dead. He's dead, you know, been dead. So Harvey is dead. My name is Harvey Nichol, and you know, you can find me walking around your street, you know, probably skating, you know, right with the boys, you already know. But yeah, that's where you can find me. And you can find me next week, September 20th, 11 years ago. We will
Friday night.
It's Friday. It starts from 7 till 10. We're gonna have 3 performers, live string instrument players. We'll have Josh Morrison playing guitar. We'll have Gunshy Seeker, and he's gonna be playing live ukulele. He also does his. I know that most of his songs are written by him. And we'll have DJ Twinsy, which is his debut DJing in the city. So
It's gonna be good.
Yeah, it's gonna be sick. And you know, this is all curated by David.
Ha!
You know, the man himself, David Yoon, Perspective Magazine. And yeah, I thank you a lot, David, for having me again. I really do appreciate it. And you know, always like working with, you know, great people. Because, you know,
well, I believe in you, man. I think your shit's killer. I can't wait to see how it keeps growing. I hope it keeps growing.
Oh, I hope so. Fuck, It would be so terrible if this is it. This is my first and last solo show.
Well, not even that. I just mean like the forms.
Oh,
just where you're going.
definitely. You know, I'm trying to have I'm trying to like, you know, progress my style and have because before, you know, I try to like, inspired by every other movement, but now I try to like, you know, use what I learned and like figure out my own shit. So,
Alright.
yeah.
Alright, cool. Sorry about the camera.
No worries.
It's just I forgot to press play.
Oh, wait.
No, we got it.
We don't have to get physical, yeah. I just want the. I just want the good girl who cries my world, my girl. She just wanna talk tonight. She don't wanna waste my time.
This episode is brought to you in part by the Alberta Blue Cross Wellness Summit, a day to explore fresh perspectives and practices around wellness at work. Hear what Linda Crawford of Alberta Blue Cross had to say about the summit.
You know, Alberta Blue Cross really wants to support people. We truly are moving the needle in a way that we want to make an impact. And so, you know, coming to even a first ever event is always fun. You can always now be able to say, hey, I was at that event. And our intention is to really leverage and scale this on an annual basis. So why not come and be that first pioneer and leader that raises their hand and says, you know what, this sounds fantastic. I want to be part of this movement, the energy that's going to happen there. Sign me up.
It's happening October 10th at the Renaissance Edmonton Airport Hotel. Sign yourself up at thewellnesssummit.ca. Perspectives YYC is a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. The APN, created by Karen Unland, supports and grows local Alberta podcasts. Podcasts like Anti-Culture with Josiah Sinani. Josiah's podcast project explores the complex nature of what cultural identity really means. He believes that the true culture of an individual and their lives is only found when we take time to hear what they have experienced from their own point of view. His latest and season-ending episode is with Rachel Dolezal, the infamous activist in the United States who was outed as a white woman posing as a black woman, pushing for black rights. He spends time with her to get her story across, while connecting with his own experiences as a mixed-race individual here in Calgary. Challenge your concept of culture with Josiah Sinanan. Check him out at josiahsinanan.com. That's JOSIAHSINANAN.com, or through the APN at their website, albertapodcastnetwork.com. On the theme of culture and race, keep an eye out for the Common Ground podcast, a 5-part series exploring narratives of hate and counter-hate in Alberta. Created by Irfan Chowdhury, Director of the Office of Human Rights, Diversity and Equity at MacEwan University, and in collaboration with Iman Bukhari from the Canadian Cultural Mosaic Foundation in Calgary. It's a conversation prompted by the rise in police-reported hate crimes in Alberta and a desire to examine what can be done to improve the way we look at each other. Find the podcast at macewan.ca/OHRDE, which stands for Office of Human Rights, Diversity and Equity, or search for Common Ground Podcast in the podcatcher of your choice.